The shocking discovery. Jake Mitchell yawned and stretched as he climbed out of his bunk, his joints popping in a way that made his alien roommates flinch. The human exchange student had been at Galactic University for barely a week, and he was still adjusting to the curious stares and whispers that followed him everywhere. Being the only Deathworlder on campus had its challenges, but Jake was determined to make the most of his interstellar education. His roommates, Zixnar and Gloop, watched with a mixture of fascination and horror as Jake stumbled towards their shared hygiene station. Zixnar, an insectoid being with iridescent wings and compound eyes, chittered nervously to Gloop, a gelatinous blob with eye stalks. Is it going to perform its terrifying morning ritual again? Zixnar whispered, antennae twitching anxiously. Gloop rippled in agreement. I still can't believe it subjects itself to such tortures voluntarily. Perhaps all the stories about Deathworlders are true. Jake, oblivious to his roommate's concerns, grabbed his toothbrush and squeezed a generous amount of minty toothpaste onto it. As he began vigorously scrubbing his teeth, Zixnar let out a high-pitched screech. By the cosmic void. It's abrading its own mouthparts with some kind of chemical paste. Gloop's entire body shuddered. How can it endure such pain? And why does it seem to be enjoying it? Jake spat into the sink, the white foam tinged slightly red with blood from his gums. He grinned at his reflection, revealing his newly clean teeth. Ah, nothing like a good brush to start the day. His alien roommates huddled together in the corner, their eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, wide with disbelief. Unaware of the distress he was causing, Jake moved on to the next part of his routine. He turned on the shower, adjusting the temperature until steam began to fill the room. Zixnar's wings buzzed in agitation. It's creating a scalding mist chamber. Is it trying to molt? Jake stepped into the shower, letting out a contented sigh as the hot water cascaded over him. He reached for his loofah and body wash, beginning to scrub his skin vigorously. Gloop's eye stalks extended to their full length in shock. Now it's flaying itself with some kind of abrasive tool. This is barbaric. As Jake continued his shower, humming a cheerful tune, his roommates debated whether they should call campus security or the medical bay. Surely, no sentient being would willingly subject themselves to such torments. Finally, Jake emerged from the shower, his skin pink from the heat and scrubbing. He wrapped a towel around his waist and grabbed his razor, preparing to shave. Zixnar's mandibles clacked in distress. Oh no, not the blade ritual. I can't watch. As Jake dragged the razor across his stubbled chin, Gloop oozed under the door in a panic, unable to bear witnessing any more of the human's self-inflicted wounds. By the time Jake had finished his morning routine, including using deodorant, which his roommates mistook for some kind of chemical warfare agent, the news of the Deathworlder's bizarre and horrifying practices had spread across the dormitory. As Jake left for his first class of the day, feeling refreshed and ready to tackle his studies, he was unaware of the commotion he had caused. Alien students whispered and pointed as he passed, some in awe of his perceived toughness, others in sheer terror of what other strange customs this human might introduce to their peaceful campus. Little did Jake know that his simple morning routine was about to spark a cultural revolution that would ripple across the entire galaxy, challenging long-held beliefs about species resilience and the very nature of self-care. Professor Zilrak, the head of xenobiology, overheard the excited chatter of his students as they filed into the lecture hall. Phrases like voluntary torture and Deathworlder madness piqued his interest. As the elderly Arcturian settled his tentacles into his hover chair, he decided it was time to investigate these rumors personally. After all, he mused, one never knew when seemingly barbaric practices might hold the key to revolutionary scientific breakthroughs. And if nothing else, it would certainly make for an interesting case study in his upcoming paper on interspecies cultural shock. As the first class of the day began, the stage was set for a series of events that would challenge the very foundations of galactic society. all because of one human's dedication to dental hygiene and personal grooming. The Cultural Exchange Seminar. Word of Jake's morning routine spread like wildfire through the campus of Galactic University. By lunchtime, the cafeteria was abuzz with speculation and wild rumors. Some claimed the human could regenerate lost limbs, while others whispered that he bathed in acid to toughen his skin. Professor Zilrak, intrigued by the commotion, decided to turn this into a learning opportunity. He approached Jake as the human was trying to figure out which of the alien foodstuffs on offer might be least likely to poison him. "Ah, Mr. Mitchell," the professor's translator device conveyed in a soothing tone. "I wonder if you might be willing to participate in a little cultural exchange." Jake, grateful for any distraction from the mysterious wiggling substances on his tray, eagerly agreed. "Sure thing, Professor. What did you have in mind?" And so, that afternoon, Jake found himself standing in front of a packed auditorium, facing a sea of curious and slightly terrified alien faces. Professor Zilrak had arranged an impromptu seminar on human self-care practices, a Deathworlder's perspective. Jake cleared his throat nervously. Hello everyone. I'm Jake, and I'm here to talk about how humans take care of themselves, I guess." A tentative tendril rose from the middle of the audience. It belonged to a Venusian slime mold named Blorb. "Is it true that you flay your own epidermis each morning as a test of courage?" Jake blinked in confusion. "What? Oh, you mean showering and using a loofah. It's not that intense, really. Here, let me demonstrate." As Jake mimed his showering routine, the audience gasped and recoiled. One delicate crystalline being in the front row shattered in shock, its pieces quickly gathered by helpful classmates. "And this," Jake continued, holding up his deodorant, "is to stop us from smelling bad." A collective groan of disbelief rippled through the crowd. A multi-eyed Betelgeusian scholar called out, "You mean to say that humans are so toxic that you must apply neutralizing agents to your own bodies?" Jake sighed. This was going to be harder than he thought. As the seminar continued, Jake tried to explain concepts like brushing teeth. "No, it doesn't hurt. And yes, we keep our teeth for life. Shaving. It's hair removal, not ritual scarification. And using Q-tips. Please don't try this one. It's actually bad for you." Each explanation seemed to only add to the audience's horror and fascination. By the time Jake got to explaining gyms and workout routines, several alien students had fainted, and others were furiously taking notes, seemingly torn between revulsion and admiration. Professor Zilrak, his tentacles writhing with excitement, couldn't have been more pleased. This was turning out to be the most engaging xenobiology seminar in cycles. As Jake wrapped up his presentation, the auditorium erupted into a cacophony of questions, exclamations, and what sounded like prayer chants from a group of spiritual aliens in the back row. One brave Andromedian raised a pseudopod. "But why? Why do humans subject themselves to these rituals?" Jake thought for a moment. "Well, I guess it's because we want to feel good, be healthy, and look attractive too. It's not really about enduring pain. Most of this stuff actually feels nice, once you're used to it." This concept, that what looked like torture could be pleasant, seemed to break several alien brains. The auditorium buzzed with excited and terrified chatter. As the seminar ended and the alien students filed out, Jake overheard snippets of conversation. "Did you see how calm he was describing those horrors? Deathworlders truly are incredible. I heard they voluntarily ingest mild poisons for pleasure. Perhaps this coffee is related to their self-care rituals. Do you think if I brush my photosynthesis organs, I'll become as tough as a human?" Professor Zilrak oozed over to Jake, his tentacles quivering with academic excitement. "Mr. Mitchell, that was fascinating. I believe you've opened up an entirely new field of study. How would you like to be a research assistant in a long-term project on human resilience and self-care practices?" Jake, overwhelmed but flattered, agreed. Little did he know that his simple seminar was about to spark a galaxy-wide self-care revolution, for better or worse. As he left the auditorium, he noticed a group of alien students attempting to brush their various mouthparts with twigs. Jake sighed. Maybe it was time for another, more hands-on demonstration. He had a feeling his journey as an interstellar cultural ambassador was just beginning. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he wondered if he should introduce them to the concept of extreme sports next, or if that might cause a full-scale galactic panic. With a shrug and a smile, Jake headed back to his dorm. After all this excitement, he could really use a nice, relaxing, scalding hot shower. Blissfully unaware of the horror this would once again inflict upon his alien roommates. The dare. In the weeks following Jake's seminar, a strange phenomenon swept through Galactic University. Alien students from every corner of the cosmos began experimenting with human self-care practices, often with hilarious and sometimes alarming results. Zixnar, Jake's insectoid roommate, had taken to polishing his exoskeleton with a mixture of toothpaste and shaving cream, claiming it gave him a Deathworlder shine. Gloop, on the other hand, had become obsessed with the concept of exfoliation and was constantly vibrating at high frequencies to shed dead cells, despite not actually having any cells to shed. It was in this atmosphere of interspecies beauty mayhem that a group of alien students approached Jake one sunny afternoon. Led by Kirks, a four-armed proximan with a reputation for thrill-seeking, they had a proposition. Human Jake, Kirks clicked, mandibles twitching with excitement. We challenge you to a self-care competition. Jake raised an eyebrow. Oh, what now? We want to prove that we can endure your Deathworld rituals, chimed in Stellar, a bioluminescent cloud being. We'll try anything you dish out. Jake tried to explain that self-care wasn't about endurance, but the alien students were too fired up to listen. Realizing this might be a chance to clear up some misconceptions, he reluctantly agreed. And so began the Great Galactic University Self-Care Challenge. The first event was a simple face mask. Jake mixed up a gentle clay mask, applying it to his face. See, it's relaxing, not torturous, he explained. The aliens, determined to prove their toughness, went overboard. Kirks slathered the mask over all four of his arms, his torso, and even his mandibles. Stellar, lacking the solid form, simply dumped their entire being into the bowl of face mask mixture. As the mask dried, the aliens waited for the supposed agony to begin. Instead, they found the experience oddly pleasant. Kirks's exoskeleton gleamed after rinsing off the mask, while Stellar glowed with an unprecedented brilliance. Emboldened by their success, the aliens demanded something more intense. Jake, still trying to emphasize relaxation over endurance, suggested a nice, warm bath with Epsom salts. He filled a tub and eased himself in with a contented sigh. The aliens, once again, took it to the extreme. They filled the pool with scalding water and enough Epsom salt to make the Dead Sea seem fresh. One by one, they plunged in. The results were mixed. Zixnar emerged with a gleaming exoskeleton, feeling more relaxed than he had in cycles. Gloop, however, absorbed so much water that he tripled in size and had to be carefully dehydrated by the university's medical staff. Stellar, forgetting they lacked a physical form that could enjoy a bath, simply evaporated and had to be carefully recondensed. As the challenge continued, Jake introduced concepts like yoga, meditation, and even a bit of light weightlifting. Each time, the aliens approached the activities with a mix of terror and determination, often with chaotic results. Kirks discovered he was surprisingly good at yoga, his four arms allowing for impressively complex poses. However, his enthusiasm led to him tying himself in literal knots, requiring the assistance of the university's physics department to untangle them. Meditation led to an incident where a group of psychic aliens accidentally achieved a state of collective consciousness, temporarily merging into a single being that spouted profound gibberish for hours before they could be separated. The weightlifting session had to be cut short when several low-gravity species, in their eagerness to prove themselves, launched barbells through the gym's ceiling and into orbit around the campus. As the day wore on, Jake found himself constantly trying to rein in the aliens' extreme interpretations of human self-care. "Guys, please," he pleaded as Kirks prepared to gargle with pure lemon juice, having misunderstood the concept of a detox cleanse. "It's supposed to make you feel good, not test your pain tolerance." But his words fell on deaf ears, or sensory organs. The aliens were determined to prove they could handle anything a Deathworlder could. The challenge reached its climax with Jake's introduction of the simple concept of a relaxing massage. He demonstrated on a willing volunteer, gently working out the knots in their tentacles. The aliens, predictably, took it to the extreme. Soon, the campus quad had turned into a chaotic mess of beings enthusiastically pummeling each other in the name of relaxation. The ground shook with the force of Gloop's attempts to massage a silicon-based life form. As the challenge continued, Jake introduced concepts like yoga, meditation, and even a bit of light weightlifting. Each time, the aliens approached the activities with a mix of terror and determination, often with chaotic results. Kirks discovered he was surprisingly good at yoga, his 4 arms allowing for impressively complex poses. However, his enthusiasm led to him tying himself in literal knots, requiring the assistance of the university's physics department to untangle him. Meditation led to an incident where a group of psychic aliens accidentally achieved a state of collective consciousness, temporarily merging into a single being that spouted profound gibberish for hours before they could be separated. The weightlifting session had to be cut short when several low-gravity species, in their eagerness to prove themselves, launched barbells through the gym's ceiling and into orbit around the campus. As the day wore on, Jake found himself constantly trying to rein in the aliens' extreme interpretations of human self-care. "Guys, please," he pleaded as Kirks prepared to gargle with pure lemon juice, having misunderstood the concept of a detox cleanse. "It's supposed to make you feel good, not test your pain tolerance." But his words fell on deaf ears, or sensory organs. The aliens were determined to prove they could handle anything a Deathworlder could. The challenge reached its climax with Jake's introduction of the simple concept of a relaxing massage. He demonstrated on a willing volunteer, gently working out the knots in their tentacles. The aliens, predictably, took it to the extreme. Soon, the campus quad had turned into a chaotic mess of beings enthusiastically pummeling each other in the name of relaxation. The ground shook with the force of Gloop's attempts to massage a silicon-based life form, while Stellar's efforts to provide a soothing electric massage resulted in several small fires. As Jake stood in the midst of the well-meaning chaos, watching alien students of all shapes and sizes engage in increasingly bizarre interpretations of human self-care, he couldn't help but laugh. It was ridiculous, potentially dangerous, and utterly hilarious. Professor Zilrak hovered nearby, his tentacles typing furiously on a datapad. "Fascinating," he exclaimed. Who knew human rituals could inspire such enthusiastic cultural exchange? Jake shook his head, grinning. "I don't think this is quite what the university had in mind when they started the interspecies exchange program." As the day drew to a close, the alien students gathered around Jake, bruised, battered, but oddly exhilarated. Kirks, his 4 arms tied in an impressive pretzel shape, spoke for the Galactic Impact. The day of Jake's presentation to the Galactic University Board arrived with an air of nervous anticipation. Word had spread about the potential suspension of the human exchange program, and aliens of all species gathered outside the Grand Hall, many sporting sweatbands, yoga mats, and confused expressions. Inside, Jake stood before the assembled board members, a diverse array of beings from across the cosmos. He took a deep breath, reminding himself that the future of human-alien relations might well depend on the next few minutes. "Esteemed members of the board," Jake began, his voice steady despite his nerves, "I stand before you today, not just as a human or as a student, but as a bridge between worlds. He gestured to the holoscreen behind him, which flickered to life with images of the chaos his self-care revolution had caused. I know you've seen the confusion, the misunderstandings, and yes, even the accidents that have resulted from the spread of human wellness practices on campus. A few board members shifted uncomfortably, their appendages twitching with concern. But, Jake continued, his voice growing stronger, I ask you to look beyond the surface. What you're seeing isn't just aliens imitating human behaviors. It's the start of something much more profound. The holoscreen changed, showing side-by-side comparisons of human and alien anatomies. Every species in this room has evolved to survive in different environments, facing unique challenges. Humans come from a high-gravity, high-danger world. Our self-care practices aren't just about vanity or testing our limits. They're about maintaining our health in a harsh environment, about listening to our bodies and caring for them. Jake clicked to the next slide, showing aliens participating in various human-inspired activities. When these students attempt our practices, they're not just copying us blindly. They're exploring new ways of understanding and caring for their own bodies. They're pushing the boundaries of their own physiologies, not to prove they're tough, but to discover new aspects of themselves. He turned back to the board, his eyes blazing with passion. This isn't just about teaching aliens to lift weights or do yoga. It's about fostering a deeper understanding between species. It's about finding common ground in our shared desire to better ourselves, no matter what form we take. The room was silent, all eyes, and various sensory organs fixed on Jake. I propose, he said, his voice ringing through the hall, a new kind of cultural exchange program. One that doesn't just teach aliens about human practices, but learns from them as well. Imagine the advances we could make in medicine, in xenobiology, in diplomacy, if we approached wellness as a collaborative, interspecies effort. Jake clicked to his final slide, a mock-up of a new course catalog. Interspecies Wellness Studies, a program that combines the best of human resilience with the unique adaptations of alien physiologies. We could revolutionize healthcare across the galaxy, create new forms of physical and mental wellness, tailored to each species' needs, and in the process, forge bonds of understanding that transcend our biological differences. As Jake finished his presentation, the room erupted into a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses, the alien equivalent of applause. Even the most skeptical board members seemed swayed by his passion and vision. Professor Zilrak oozed forward, his tentacles rippling with excitement. Mr. Mitchell, I believe you've given us much to consider. The board will need to deliberate, but I must say, your proposal is intriguing. Hours later, Jake stood on the steps of the Grand Hall, surrounded by a crowd of eager aliens. The board's decision had been unanimous. Not only would the human exchange program continue, but it would be expanded. Jake's proposed interspecies wellness studies would become a new department, with Jake himself offered a position as student coordinator. As the news spread across campus, the atmosphere transformed from one of chaos to one of excited collaboration. Aliens began sharing their own species' wellness practices, eager to contribute to this new field of study. Zixnar organized a workshop on exoskeleton maintenance, teaching mammals about the importance of proper molting techniques. Gloop led meditation sessions that focused on achieving perfect amorphous harmony. Even the crystalline beings, who had initially been the most skeptical, offered classes on achieving inner clarity through proper light refraction. In the weeks that followed, the effects of Jake's initiative began to spread beyond the university. Galactic news networks picked up the story, fascinated by this new form of interspecies cooperation. Wellness centers across the cosmos began incorporating multispecie approaches, leading to breakthroughs in xenomedicine and physiotherapy. Jake found himself at the center of a galactic movement, fielding calls from alien diplomats and scientists eager to learn more about human resilience and adaptability. Humanity, once seen as brutish newcomers to the galactic stage, was suddenly being hailed for their innovative approach to personal wellness and interspecies understanding. As Jake walked across campus one evening, watching aliens of all shapes and sizes engaged in a mix of human and alien wellness practices, he couldn't help but smile. What had started as a simple misunderstanding about his morning routine had blossomed into something that was changing the very fabric of galactic society. He paused to help a group of amorphous beings who were tangled up in resistance bands, gently explaining that sometimes relaxation was just as important as exertion. As he demonstrated a simple stretching technique, adapted on the fly for beings without bones, Jake realized that this was what it truly meant to be human in a vast, diverse universe. It wasn't about being the strongest or the toughest or even the smartest. It was about being adaptable, creative, and always willing to learn and grow, not just as individuals, but as a species among the stars. As the sun set on another day at Galactic University, Jake Mitchell, the Deathworlder whose morning routine had horrified his alien classmates, stood tall. He was no longer just a curiosity from a high-gravity world. He was a bridge between cultures, a pioneer in a new field of study, and living proof that even in the vast expanse of the cosmos, the human spirit could not only survive but thrive. And somewhere, in the great tapestry of the universe, humanity's thread began to shine just a little bit brighter.